After the issues they experienced at Ruby Ridge, the ATF was desperate to improve their reputation, which had been badly damaged by the media and right-wing extremist groups. Their next focus, the Branch Davidians, who the ATF believed were stockpiling firearms, abusing children, and possibly even running a meth lab at their facility known as Mount Carmel, located in Waco, Texas. What followed was a 51-day standoff that ended in a violent, deadly siege. Today, we'll take a look at both sides, the federal government and the Branch Davidians, and discuss the mistakes made and how this standoff could have ended much differently. I'm Mike.
I'm Ian.
And I'm Dave. If you thought Lamb of God was just a great metal band, stick around. This Lamb of God also ran a pretty wild cult down in Texas once upon a time. This is Necronomipod.
This is David Koresh.
Okay, David.
The Notorious. Why'd you guys do that for?
Well, Dave, what I'm doing is I'm trying to establish some communication links with you.
No. Let me tell you something.
Yes, sir.
You see, you brought a bunch of guys out here and you killed some of my children. We told you we wanted to talk. No, how come you guys try to be ATF agents? How come you try to be so big all the time?
Okay, David.
Now, there's a bunch of us dead. There's a bunch of you guys dead. Now that's your fault.
Okay, let's try to resolve this now. Tell me this. Now, you have casualties. How many casualties? Do you want to try to work something out? ATF is pulling back.
Yeah, you pull your guys out, and I want to talk.
All right, I don't care who goes first. I want hot takes only. A food or foods that are popular that you guys think are overrated as hell.
And
I gave you guys
mine right off the bat.
Go ahead. Ian, you...
Lasagna.
Wow.
Mike hates lasagna too.
I hate lasagna.
High five from the other side of Cleveland, sir.
Boom. It's just a soggy, giant noodled mess.
Oh my god!
I do not need lasagna.
Not at my house. It's not.
That's a good one, Ian. Because I would have. That wasn't even on my list, but I do despise lasagna. Wow, he came out firing with that one. And now we've lost our Italian fan base, so there goes that. All four of them.
Well, we're about to lose our Mexican fan base because I do not like Mexican food.
Wow, you're going a whole genre of food.
Oh, damn.
A whole ethnic cuisine.
Like, I will never, if anyone suggests, where to go out for dinner, I will never suggest going out for Mexican. I don't like it.
I have to be in a specific mood for Mexican. Like, I'm not just always ready for it, but I do love Mexican
Everyone
food.
loves it.
Tamale.
It's just, I don't like it at all. I will
always. But to be clear, you do love some Taco Bell. You'll get your cheesy gordita crunch.
Well, sure. Like tamales. What else do they have there? Burros and.
Oh man.
I mean, you could just get some burritos or tacos. Like I like street tacos, some burritos.
I don't like Mexican food.
So we've pissed off Italians and Mexicans all in.
I like Mexicans. I just don't like Mexican food.
Mine, I have two. One, just in general, sweets. I think sweets are overrated. I don't know why you'd want sweet when you can have savory.
I don't eat sweets either.
Yeah. Like, why have ice cream when you can have a bag of Cool Ranch Doritos?
I 100% am with you.
Yeah. And then this is not a popular one, I think, and I like them, but they are extremely overrated, and that is French fries. Overrated food.
Interesting.
I will almost always substitute French fries for any other side dish when I can. Sometimes I'm in the mood for fries, but typically, no. And for as much as I eat fast food,
that's the standby accompaniment for your Wendy's triple. You go a different direction.
I love the I go extra beef. I get the Wendy's triple and a side of chili, and I just had the fucking greatest sleep of all time after that.
What if they're called freedom fries? Does that make them better?
Well, absolutely. This is America.
Sure,
I'm not going to eat fucking French fries. I'll eat freedom fries.
All right.
Also, for the record, Wendy's fries are absolute garbage. They're trash.
They're not great.
They're trash.
Yeah, they're not good.
When we're talking normal fries, unseasoned, because like Arby's is fantastic, Rally's is fantastic. I think McDonald's, just for regular French fries, might be the best of the fast foods.
Yep.
Yeah, they are for sure.
And also, people go nuts about waffle fries. They're not any better because they're in a waffle shape.
I like waffle fries.
But they're okay, but they're not better because they're in a waffle shape.
I think maybe they are.
I don't think they are, unless you get the cheese dipping sauce. A lot of them come with cheese dipping sauce, but then it's a whole different ballgame.
You're the expert, though. I'm just.
Well, I'm letting people know. French fries, no thank you. Keep your lasagna, keep your French fries.
That's an interesting hot take.
Give me chili dogs and Diet Millers.
I'm more concerned about this hot take on candy that's happening right now. Because as you guys know, I love my candy.
That's right.
I don't really eat sweet stuff. I'll make popcorn. I don't eat.
Yeah, popcorn. Like every now and then I get a sweet tooth and I'll go to like the gas station and I'll come home with like 6 candy bars and I will eat them over the course of a day. But I don't do sweets very much.
Yeah, I don't either.
I'm not a big sweets guy.
Man.
He's getting hungry. He's going to go, as soon as we're done tomorrow, he's going out for a shrimp burrito and like all the fucking Snickers he can get. Last week, we started the trend. We did Ruby Ridge. This week, we're going to turn it up a notch, heading down to Waco, Texas. This one, Ian, you've been pretty hyped about this episode.
I heard him off mic earlier. He was like,
This is no jerking matter, Dave.
Have you guys ever been to Waco?
I have not.
I've been through Waco.
Have you?
I've never been to Texas before.
Yeah.
We talked about Texas a few weeks ago.
I like Texas.
Why I said it's like its own little country down there.
Sure is.
Yeah. Texas is all right.
It looks just like it did in the Netflix series we watched this week.
That's true. And I think it's still trending, and that was by a happy accident. So for anyone who wants a companion piece with this episode, Netflix currently has a Waco miniseries. It's like 6 episodes, about an hour apiece, a miniseries on Waco that was really good, really intense. And they just happened to put it on Netflix about the same time we had planned to do this show, and hopefully that's good for business.
Yeah. Happy accidents, right?
Hey.
Yep.
All right, Ian, what do you got for us?
Well, before he was known as David Koresh, Vernon Way Howell was born on August 17th, 1959 in Houston, Texas, to a 14-year-old single mother named Bonnie Sue Clark and father Bobby Wayne Howell. Before Vernon was born, his father met another teenage girl and abandoned Bonnie Sue. Vernon never met his father, and his mother began living with a violent alcoholic.
So as a young man growing up in the world, he's off to a pretty good, kind of good start.
Some turmoil in here.
Yeah.
In 1963, Vernon's mother left her boyfriend and placed her 4-year-old son in the care of his maternal grandmother, Earlene Clark. His mother returned when he was 7 after her marriage to a carpenter named Roy Hadelman. Bonnie Sue and Hadelman had a son together named Roger, who was born in 1966. Vernon described his childhood as lonely. Due to his not doing so well in school and dyslexia, he was put in special education classes and was nicknamed some not very nice, mentally challenged names by fellow students. Because of bullying, I mean, we're not talking just like getting picked. I mean, he was bullied severely. Being bullied and his frustration with classes, Vernon dropped out of Garland High School his junior year. When he was 19 years old, Vernon had an illegal sexual relationship with a 15-year-old girl who became pregnant. After this, he claimed to have become a born-again Christian in a Southern Baptist church and soon joined his mother's church, the Seventh-day Adventists.
Those guys are pretty hardcore, right? Those Seventh-day Adventists?
Oh, yeah. I think we're getting into speaking in tongues territory.
Oh, my favorite. Speaking in tongues is good stuff.
It's your specialty.
We're getting real intense with the Seventh-day Adventists. It's
just convenient. He also found this just after he, started an inappropriate relationship with a 15-year-old, too.
What better way to celebrate, speaking in tongues. Banging a 15-year-old, speaking in tongues.
Well, once he got to the Seventh-day Adventists, he became obsessed with the pastor's daughter. And while praying for guidance, he opened his eyes and allegedly found the Bible open to Isaiah 34:16, stating that, quote, "None should want for her mate." Convinced this was a sign from God, he approached the pastor and told him that God wanted him to have his daughter for a wife. The pastor threw him out, and he continued to persist, like to go after this guy's daughter, and he was expelled from the congregation.
He's like, "Come on, preacher! God told me to treat your daughter like a Navy ship and fill her full of semen."
I want to know how old this pastor's daughter was too.
Yeah, that might have had something to do with it. Where he's like, "What the fuck are you talking?"
Like what we're not saying is that she was like 7.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Well, after he was kicked out in 1981, Vernon moved to Waco, Texas, where he joined the Branch Davidians.
See, I thought he formed the Branch Davidians. I never really knew the backstory on all this. So that's
this might be Yeah, this might be a fun fact for people that never really looked into it, because this shit has been going on for a minute before he decided to roll in there.
Like, so it was like they literally started 60 seconds before, and then he joined them?
Oh, thank you.
Well, you said it'd been going on for like a minute.
The Branch Davidians, they're a religious group that originated in 1955 from a rift in the Shepherd's Rod Davidians following the death of the Shepherd Rod's founder, Victor Hodeff.
Shepherd Rod.
Yeah,
Nice
I don't know what that
Rod
means.
Shepherd. These guys with their fucking names.
Hodeff founded the Davidians based on his prophecy of an imminent apocalypse, which would involve the second coming of Jesus Christ and the defeat of the evil armies of Babylon.
200,000 years from now, if people are still with this religion nonsense, they're going to be thinking that during their lifetime, there's going to be the second coming of Christ and the world's going to end. Every generation, same thing.
If people are still with this religious nonsense.
Hopefully we evolve by that time.
Oh,
And
okay.
we're not.
Gotcha.
We're 99% atheist in the world. We'll be much
You know
better
what,
off.
This might be a hot take, but based on this story and other,
You already hate
cults that we've
lasagna,
talked
Ian. Does
about-
it get any worse than that?
Well, I feel like whoever, I don't know who wrote the Old Testament in the Bible. I don't even know if there is an author behind it.
Do you want me to
works.
sing the song again for you to tell you who Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy? That's all I know. That's all I remember. I got to study up on my Old Testament.
Whoever wrote that shit fucked up mankind for a long time, because people have been using that shit to justify some dumb shit for
Yeah.
a very, very long time.
It was God, so how dare
He
you,
wrote
sir?
that?
Oh, very true.
Well, that's all through God. It's His word,
Well, I mean,
not a great part of the Bible.
no. I mean, why read a bunch
as
of...
opposed to the good parts.
Yeah, what's the good part?
I'm just saying.
I mean, the Jesus stuff is good part. I mean, if Jesus ever really existed, I mean, he has a good message. It's just his people I don't
I
really
wish
care
I
for.
could turn water into wine. Motherfuck! You know how much money I'd save?
Be fantastic. You don't even have to grow the grapes.
Oh,
You just turn the tap water on, boom,
wine.
magic wand. Say a few spells like Harry Potter. You got some wine,
imagine how popular it'd be with the ladies.
right?
Oh, your glass looks full. Touch, boom.
You
wine.
could adjust the alcohol content based on her current mental state.
There you go. Because you wouldn't want her to drink too much if she was already.
Well, that's what I meant.
inebriated.
Lower
Yeah,
it, not
right.
raise it to
Right.
do stuff to her.
Right.
Clearly, that's what I meant.
Remember The Office, where Michael is drinking wine and he sniffs it and he's like, "This is a red."
I mean, I like the
Well,
Bible
as-
because why read a bunch of books when you can just read one? That's what I always say.
I think it's the fifth time you said that.
What's good advice? It simplifies your life for you. Why incorporate all these extra? Why introduce all these extra thoughts into your brain with all these different science gobbledygook books? Just read one book.
Gobbledygook.
It's a lot simpler.
It's a lot easier.
Yeah, it's a
that
lot
way.
easier. Everything makes sense. It's simple. You don't have to think too much.
No argument here, pal.
There you go. It's advice from your pal Dave. You're welcome.
That comes free with the show.
Absolutely.
You didn't even get to an ad yet. You got to hear that for free. As the original Davidian group gained members, its leadership moved the church to a hilltop several miles east of Waco, Texas, which they named Mount Carmel after a mountain in Israel mentioned in Joshua 19:26 in the Bible's Old Testament.
I thought it was caramel. Like they had Sundays and stuff there.
Are we go? I knew we were going to do this. Are we getting into this debate right now? What,
Caramel,
if we say-
caramel.
I don't really think I
Yeah.
have that debate in me. I don't care either way. It's delicious either which way.
I figured it was going to happen.
I'm a
what
caramel.
does every-
I
what
say
does everybody
caramel.
I
say?
say caramel.
Okay.
what do you
so
say?
then there is no debate.
Okay.
They
It's
don't-
official. It's caramel. If you say it differently, fuck you. You're wrong. You probably like pineapple on your pizza too. Hit unsubscribe. Move on.
I assume Ian, down where you're from, they said caramel. Caramel.
Yeah, probably, yeah. A few years later, they moved again to a much larger site east of the city. In 1959, Victor's widow, Florence Hoteff, announced that the expected Armageddon was about to take place, and members were told to gather at the center to await this event.
Any day now. Yeah, that's a ticket. Any day now.
Many of them built houses Others stayed in tents, trucks, or buses, and most of them sold all of their possessions. Following the failure of this prophecy, control of Mount Carmel fell to Benjamin Roden, founder of the Branch Davidian Seventh-day Adventist Association. He promoted different beliefs than those which were promoted by Victor Hotep's original Shepherd's Rod Davidian Seventh-day Adventist organization.
This is very confusing already.
Yeah, there's a lot happening here, but we're all arguing over. It's basically who we're arguing over who's controlling this organization, for the most part.
Yeah.
Upon Roden's death, control of the Branch Davidians fell to his wife, Lois Roden. Lois considered their son, George Roden, unfit to assume the position of prophet. Instead, she groomed Vernon to be her successor. Now, keep in mind, Vernon Howell, a.k.a. David Koresh, rolled in here and was having an affair with this woman, even though she was like 40 years older than him at the time. Like, she was like 70 years old, and he was having an affair with her.
It's a gilf.
So that that very much aided in her thinking that he was going to be the prophet.
This guy's sleeping with chicks much younger than him, much older. He don't give a fuck.
He's the future Lamb of God. He's laying God pipe. She's like, I'm turning this over to you, pal.
Well, you know what's funny about that is that there was a thing where someone accused him of getting Lois Roden pregnant when she was like in her 70s. And he made the offhanded, like, smart-ass comment of saying, like, if I could get a woman in her 70s pregnant, I am a god. And the media, like, when we get into this stuff later on with what inevitably happens here, the media ran with that statement of him saying, I am a god. And they took it out of context, but he was just being a asshole about it. They took it as, the media twisted it into more of a statement that he is a god. But
you know, it'd been awesome if he would have responded, if I can get a 70-year-old woman pregnant, imagine what I could do to your wife, Pally. That's what I would have said if I were him.
I mean, we're going to get into it. That's kind of what he was doing at the same time here.
I make Grandma Roden come like a Niagara Falls. What do you think I'm going to do to you?
To you? Oh, boy.
In 1984, a meeting led a division of the group, with Vernon leading one faction, calling themselves the Branch Davidians, and George Roden leading a competing faction. After the split, George Roden ran Vernon and his followers off Mount Carmel at gunpoint. Following this split, Vernon and his group relocated to Palestine, Texas. After the death of Lois Roden and probate of her estate in January 1987, Vernon attempted to gain control of Mount Carmel. In response, George Roden had dug up the casket of a woman named Anna Hughes from the Davidian cemetery and had challenged Vernon to a resurrection contest to prove who was the rightful heir to leadership. Basically like if you're the prophet, you can bring her back to life.
This is my
Dave,
favorite part of the story.
Dave, I challenge you to an erection contest to see who's the rightful leader. Wait, you said erection contest, right, Ian? Dave, you get your blue chew, I get my blue chew, and we do battle.
You're a much younger man. I'm gonna give you this one. I'm much more interested in the resurrection contest at this point.
I feel you're underestimating the power of blue chew, pal. They make every man feel like he's 20.
So you think it was like a face, like they were standing next to each other, and it was like kind of like, ladies and gentlemen, false prophets of all ages, let's get ready to raise some dead people. Resurrection contest. This is the best. These religious fucking wackos.
I would have paid top dollar to watch this and see this play out.
100%.
I want to be front row for this resurrection contest. And when they all lose, I take over control of this religious cult.
Little spoiler, Vernon, David Koresh, whatever, I think he was more of a scam artist than anything. I don't think he believed his own shit ever.
Really? That's an interesting take.
Vernon, instead of competing in this resurrection contest, went to the police.
Actually, probably did the most like sensible thing he's ever done.
Yeah, and ratted George Roden out for corpse abuse.
That's the smart move, honestly.
Yeah. Could you imagine that? Some dude like challenging you, and he dug up a dead body and told you to bring it back to life. You're like, yeah, no, I'm trying to run this cult, so I'm just gonna go to the police and tell on you for what you just did. did.
Yeah. George just shot himself in the foot. We're going to take care of him now.
Yeah. But the county prosecutors refused to file charges without proof. So now Vernon's going to step it up a bit. On November 3rd, 1987, Vernon and 7 armed members of his group tried to get into the Mount Carmel chapel with the goal of photographing the body in the casket as evidence to incriminate Roden. Roden was informed of this break-in and came running down and opened fire on Vernon and his 7 members.
There's gunfights going on here.
The sheriff's department responded about 20 minutes into the gunfight, during which Roden had been wounded. Sheriff Howell got Vernon on the phone and told him to stop the shooting and just surrender. Vernon and his members, which were dubbed the, quote, Rodenville 8 by the media, were tried for attempt of murder on April 12th, 1988.
I believe that's the new Quentin Tarantino movie, right? The Rodenville.
I'm sure the dialogue's fantastic. I bet you can't resurrect us here, lady.
7 were acquitted, and the jury was hung on Vernon's verdict. The county prosecutor didn't push it any further. I almost feel like the prosecutor in this whole thing was probably like, I don't even want to deal with these motherfuckers. Like, this
like,
is
let them go shoot
crazy.
each other out there and like fuck them.
It's Texas, man.
Even with all the effort to bring the casket to court, the standing judge.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was a sentence just read on Necronomipod. Can we read that one more time?
Even with all the effort to bring the casket to court, the standing judge refused to use it as evidence in the case. Judge Herman Fitz ruled that the courtroom is no place for a casket when defense attorney Jerry Coker requested it be used as evidence for the case. During questions about the said casket, Roden admitted to attempting to resurrect Ann Hughes on 3 separate occasions.
I guess it didn't work, right? False prophet alert.
Yeah. While waiting for trial, Roden was put in jail under contempt of court charges because of his use of foul language in some of the court proceedings. He threatened the Texas court with sexually transmitted diseases if the court ruled in Vernon's favor alongside these...
You know what? I'm fitting to give you all chlamydia if you let this boy out of jail. This is so ridiculous. Fucking cult wars in Texas. I'm going to give you chlamydia.
Alongside these charges, Roden was jailed for 6 months for illegal motions he filed with the explicit language. So he was writing some documents telling everybody to go fuck themselves.
He's the potty mouth preacher, this guy.
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of dig him a little bit. Like, just telling everyone to fuck off. I'm gonna give you STDs.
I'm gonna spray gonorrhea all over the jury.
I want that cult. I want that one.
Roden faced 90 days in jail for living on the property after being ordered to neither live on the property nor call himself the leader of a religious group regarding this 1979 case. The next day, Perry Jones and a number of Vernon's followers moved from their headquarters in Palestine, Texas to Mount Carmel.
Mount Caramel.
Yeah. And just to follow up on what happened to George Roden, in 1989, George Roden used an axe to kill a Davidian named Wayman Dale Adair, who visited him to discuss Adair's vision of being God's chosen Messiah. He was found guilty under an insanity defense and was committed to a mental hospital. Shortly after Roden's commitment, Vernon raised the money to pay off all the back taxes on Mount Carmel owed by Roden and took legal control of the property.
Goddamn cult wars, man.
Vernon played it right, though.
Vernon came out on top.
Yeah, he didn't get involved in that little resurrection scheme, and
it's like, I see your game here. I ain't resurrecting nobody.
Could you? That's the thing. I feel like that's the thing between a successful cult leader and a complete fucking crazy person.
Mm-hmm.
A successful cult leader knows the scheme and knows the scam. They're not going to play into that shit.
Right, because you're not going to resurrect a dead body, so you don't say...
Of course he's like, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Right. Well, you got to be smart enough to be able to manipulate all these people. Oh. So, I mean, you're not... These guys aren't dumb, clearly.
Hide your weaknesses, accentuate your strengths.
Yeah, for sure.
On August 5th, 1989, Vernon released the, quote, New Light audio tape in which he said that he had been told by God to procreate with women in the group to establish a, quote, House of David of his special people. This involved separating married couples in the group who had agreed that only he could have sexual relations with the wives while the men should observe celibacy. Vernon also said that God had told him to start building a, quote, army of God to prepare for the end days and a salvation of his followers. Now, it's real convenient with all these cult leaders how they're the only ones allowed to have sex with multiple people.
Yeah.
It's very convenient.
Yeah, it's a running theme with all these guys.
I laughed out loud watching that miniseries when he's like, yeah, I agreed to take on that burden of fucking all your wives.
Right. So who's running his fuck schedule?
He is.
He's running his own. Well,
Oh, yeah.
see, you'd avoid all the government's involvement if you had Muggs running the show, I think.
He could have shielded him.
Like I said, it's super convenient that these guys, all these guys do this with the sex thing. It's a huge part of it. But he put like an extra twist on it with, and we're going to get into the 7 seals here in a second in the book of Revelations, but the book of Revelation says that at the end times that there's going to be 24 elders that sit and judge mankind during the apocalypse. And so his thought process was that he needed to have 24 wives to produce 24 separate children. And those 24 children would be the ones that sat and judged mankind at the end of everything.
Oh, sure. That's logical.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah. Thanks for explaining it, Ian. Now I understand it a little better.
And you accept it as
Yeah.
truth?
I mean, why not? Makes as much sense as anything else, right? Got to have some game to talk all these guys to come down there and give them your wives, right?
You got to do
sense to me.
something, man. Vernon also focused heavily on the 7 seals, like we just kind of briefly brought up. In the book of Revelations, the 7 seals of God are the 7 symbolic seals that secure the book or scroll that John of Patmos saw in an apocalyptic vision. The opening of the seals of the document occurs in Revelation chapters 5 through 8 and marks the second coming of Christ and the beginning of the apocalypse. The only one worthy of opening the book or scrolls is referred to as both the, quote, Lion of Judah and the, quote, Lamb having 7 horns and 7 eyes. Vernon would claim that he was the Lamb of God that could unseal these 7 seals during the second coming.
Well, he was the chosen one. Makes sense, right?
He's the Lamb of God.
Well,
that's basically what we're saying.
the logic is undeniable.
It makes perfect sense to me.
I mean, the guy that finished 9th grade in Texas in the 80s, I mean, who else would it be? Clearly, he knows everything. He's a scholar, Ian.
Yeah, he's something. Vernon filed a petition in the California State Superior Court in Pomona on May 15th, 1990 to legally change his name for, quote, publicity and business purposes to David Koresh. And on August 28th, he was granted the petition.
So where'd the Koresh thing come from?
So Koresh is a Hebrew name, and it's like a flip on it with like the House of David thing, but then he throws in the last name Koresh, and it's a Hebrew name that's kind of like a flip to referring to Cyrus the Great.
Is it true that his rap name was Fresh Koresh? If you want to go to heaven at the end of your lives, then you better come down here and let me impregnate your wives.
Is this like David Koresh slam poetry?
Yeah, for sure.
I think that was #1 on TRL for a few years
Fresh
back
Koresh.
in the 90s.
Fresh Koresh. DJ Fresh Koresh.
Coming to a town near you.
Coming in a wife near you.
This is super interesting with David Koresh because you see hints of this through his story, but you know we're gonna get into the whole raid and all the shit, and then it's gonna flip from this cult story to now we're gonna be debating like what's right and wrong for the government to do. But just basing it off the cult aspect of it, it's interesting to see what he does from very early on. He's challenged with this guy that says that he can bring people back from the dead. And he's like, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to call the police on you because I'm going to take control of this cult and you're fucking crazy for doing that. And then he changes his name and he lists it as for publicity and business purposes. He knows goddamn well what he's doing.
He's a smart guy, clearly.
He knows the laws of what he's doing. We're going to see that through. We're going to see that when he starts marrying girls that are underage, and we're going to see it with the gun things. He crosses all the T's and dots all the I's legally. He knows goddamn well what he's trying to do here. But I think it really points, because he convinces people that David Koresh, that name, that means something. But behind the scenes, legally, it's for publicity and business purposes.
Yeah.
By 1992, most of the land belonging to the group had been sold except for a core of 77 acres. Most of the buildings had been removed or were being salvaged for construction materials to convert much of the main chapel and water tank into apartments for residents of the group. Many of the members of the group had been involved with the Davidians for a few generations at this point, and many had large families.
But, like, they had no running water, right?
Huh? No, they had nothing out there.
Can you imagine living like that? I mean, for generations? Oof.
They were loving it.
I mean, as much as you guys like camping, right? Like, that'd be right up your alley.
I love it so much. Being outside, feeling dirty all the time. It's the best. It's the best thing in the world.
The initial investigation by the ATF into the Branch Davidians began in June of 1992 when a postal worker informed a sheriff of McLean County in May of 1992 that he believed he had been delivering explosives to the ammo and gun store owned and operated by the Branch Davidians. Because that's how they made their money, is they owned a gun store. Was
it on site at Mount Carmel, the actual retail gun store?
No, it was off-site. It was actually in Waco. It wasn't at Mount Carmel. Now, we talked about last week how Ruby Ridge was an absolute shit show. And it was the FBI's fault. The FBI sniper is the one who killed Vicky Weaver. It was mainly the FBI who did all the really, really aggressive things in Ruby Ridge that were questioned. But they pushed it back and flipped it and blamed it all on the ATF. So at this point, the ATF was really looking for a way to save their asses in the situation because they were facing, getting defunded by the government. I mean, there was a lot of things at play here because of Ruby Ridge.
Yeah.
President Clinton was very upset with it, among a lot of other people. So there was a lot of talk about taking money away from the ATF and all this stuff. So
they needed a win. They needed a win here.
They needed a win. And they thought they found their win when they heard about these explosives being delivered to Mount Carmel. So they decided to launch this investigation into the Branch Davidians.
This was portrayed very deliberate in this miniseries we've been talking about. I just hope it wasn't that deliberate as portrayed. I suspect it was, though.
It very much was.
Because this whole Branch Davidian situation seems to have been a non-starter. Like, not much was going on down there. Like, I think a lot of people in Texas probably have machine guns out in the desert here. This does not seem to be worthy of the ATF and everything that follows here.
I think from what we're going to talk about going forward with this is going to be like this back and forth conversation of, yes, David Koresh was a piece of shit, but the Branch Davidians didn't deserve what happened in this situation at all. And this was the government trying to save face for what we talked about last week in Ruby Ridge.
That's a terrible thing if that's true.
Yeah. The ATF began surveillance from a house across the road from Mount Carmel several months before the siege. Their cover was noticeably bad as, quote, college students. They were in their 30s, had new cars, were not registered in local schools, and did not keep a schedule that would have fit any legitimate employment or classes.
Maybe not their best start to this investigation. Let's go send Dave over, and he'll be our college student, investigating them.
Hey, come on, man. What are you saying?
Like in the show, they portray them as ranchers, which is equally as bad. Like I feel like they get that point across because in the show, David Koresh asks him some real rancher slang questions, and the guy has no idea.
It's like, yeah, my other buddy, he's the real ranch expert. He'll be back later.
Yeah, right.
But this was even worse. Like in real life, it's even worse than that because they were supposed to be college students that moved across the street from Mount Carmel in the middle of fucking nowhere, Texas.
Right.
Like it makes no sense.
Like literally in the middle of it's not even in Waco. It's 13 miles east of Waco in the middle of nowhere.
The investigation included sending an undercover agent, Robert Rodriguez, to go into the compound multiple times. David Koresh knew who Robert Rodriguez really was, but he chose not to reveal that fact until the end of the raid, and we'll get more into Agent Robert Rodriguez in a bit. The gun store that they owned, named the Mag Bag, had been identified by said postal worker as having the suspicious deliveries. The postal worker continued to deliver to Mount Carmel and reported seeing manned observation posts. In ATF agent David Aguilera's affidavit, it states he believed that there were armed members at these observation posts. Like, at all times, there was somebody at Mount Carmel armed watching.
The movie, I keep saying the movie, the miniseries talks about an informant they had in there. Was that real? Did they have an inside informant that left where they got all this information?
I didn't see anything saying that they had like an informant inside. From what we're going to talk about right here, I think the only thing that they were going off of was the complaint to the sheriff's department.
Seems pretty light.
About
the evidence.
The McClellan County Sheriff was notified in May and June of that year of 2 cases of inert grenades, black gunpowder, 90 pounds of powdered aluminum metal, and 30-40 cardboard tubes. Furthermore, the sheriff noticed another shipment of 60 AR-15/M16 magazines, to which ATF agent David Aguilera made a statement, quote, "I have been involved in many cases where defendants, following a relatively simple process, convert AR-15 semi-automatic rifles to fully automatic rifles of the nature of the M16. That was to justify his involvement in this case. Another report made to the sheriff in November 1992 by a local farmer who believed he had heard machine gun fire. Quote, "It was likely a 50 caliber machine gun in multiple M16s. This farmer claimed that he was very familiar with machine guns, having done tours overseas in the U.S. Army. I think it's well documented on the show that I know nothing about guns, and I've never held a gun in my life. But from what I've read, is that to get your hands on something that had a 50 caliber is pretty fucking hard.
I mean, that's
real fucking hard.
That's heavy duty, a 50 caliber machine gun.
Like, that will liquefy a person.
Sure.
So I think that
those are enormous shells. Yeah.
Yeah. This farmer was exaggerating, and the ATF rolled with it.
Well, that's all I need is that signed eyewitness statement, right?
The affidavit closed with Aguilera verifying the story via interviews made with associated parties and gun shops from which the Mag Bag purchased items. Among these items were over 45 AR-15 upper receivers and 5 M16 upper receivers, which Aguilera clearly notated, quote, "These kits contain all the parts of an M16 machine gun except for the lower receiver unit, which is the firearm by lawful definition," thus just blatantly admitting that neither the noise complaints nor the items ordered were necessarily illegal.
You know who else has an upper and lower receiver? Dave's wife. Sometimes you want the upper receiver, sometimes you want the lower receiver. Sometimes you want the back receiver. You know, it just depends what mood you're in.
So essentially what they were saying is that these guys were converting AR-15s into fully automatic M16s. But based on the parts that they had proof that they were ordering, it wasn't anything illegal. And from really like basic, like speak to me like I'm 5 years old kind of language that I read online, was that it was basically something that people that are super into guns call a hellfire trigger, which makes it just fire super fucking loud. That it just whatever they do to it, it's not illegal. It's still not illegal to this day, as far as I know.
It's America. But nothing's illegal here. Do whatever the fuck you want.
But it's
not
just
America. It's Texas.
It doesn't make it sound, or it doesn't make it fire any faster. It just makes it sound loud as fuck. The Department of Human Services was noted in the affidavit as well. ATF happened to get statements from a department worker who managed to investigate a case on the Mount Carmel site. This agent, Joyce Sparks, had 2 separate visits to the grounds where she questioned members of the Branch Davidians and toured the compound. The first involved interviewing a young boy of the compound who, quote, "who was in a rush to grow up so he could have a long gun." This issue was not looked into until Sparks' second visit, when she was able to speak to David Koresh himself. He nonchalantly mentioned that there were only a few guns, but when Sparks asked if it was okay to tour the compound, he requested she wait 30 minutes, and she presumed that that was so he could hide guns, so that she was not aware of them, and maybe other members were not aware of them.
I mean, you know, to be fair, maybe he just wanted to tidy up and he left a bunch of Bibles laying around the house. He just didn't want to appear messy.
Probably not best to ask the Department of Human Services to wait 30 minutes
Probably
look around your house.
probably not a good idea, no.
You're off to a bad start right
Might
there.
raise some suspicion.
Yeah.
During this tour was when Sparks looked inside a trap door and noticed a buried bus with a refrigerator at the end. It was obvious that to her that the refrigerator was used as target practice by the Davidians, with bullet holes in it and guns just strewn along the floor of this kind of like makeshift basement thing that they had going on there.
Okay,
with this
but
buried
nothing
school
illegal.
bus.
That's fine, though.
No, it's
So
not
what?
illegal. Yeah, it's not illegal. And also noted in the ATF affidavit were allegations of a child bride as young as 12 years old. Now, here's the thing with this 12-year-old bride thing. There was an ex-member that left the group, and he made a lot of claims to law enforcement about the child bride thing. And it was rumored 12 years old. That very well might be true. Not a bride, but it very well might be true that David Koresh was having an inappropriate relationship with a girl as young as 12 years old. But the fact of it is that he married a girl in that compound that was 14 years old. At the time, it's not anymore. They changed the laws since all this shit went down. But at the time, that was the age of consent in Texas to get married, was 14 years old. I don't love it. I think it's super inappropriate. I don't know what grown man ever would want to marry a 14-year-old child, but David Koresh did it, and it was by the law. And the ATF has no jurisdiction over anything that has to do with children.
Nor should it be related as, I don't know, an additional circumstance on any of these search warrant requests.
Yeah. It's gross.
Well, sure.
It's super gross, but it doesn't have anything to do with alcohol, tobacco, or firearms.
Agree.
Yeah.
Using this affidavit filed by Aguilera that alleged that the Davidians had violated federal law, the ATF obtained search and arrest warrants for David Koresh and specific followers on weapons charges, citing many of the firearms that they had accumulated. The search warrant commanded a search, quote, on or before February 28, 1993, in the daytime between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. The ATF made a claim that Koresh was possibly operating a meth lab to establish a drug connection and obtain military assets under the War on Drugs Act. Although the ATF's investigation, quote, focused on firearms violations, not illegal drugs, the ATF requested assistance from the DEA and the DOD, quote, citing a drug connection based on, 1, a recent delivery to the compound of, quote, chemicals, instruments, and glassware. 2, a written testimony from a former compound's resident alleging, quote, Howell had told him that drug trafficking was a desirable way to raise money. 3, several current residents who, quote, had prior drug involvement. 4, 2 former residents who were incarcerated for drug trafficking crimes. 5, National Guard's overflights thermal images show, quote, hot spot inside the compound, possibly indicating a methamphetamine laboratory.
Ugh.
I'm going to just dive into this for a second.
Pontificate, Ian, please.
When David Koresh took this, when he was doing the whole thing with George Roden, when they were arguing about who can resurrect who from the dead and all that bullshit was going down, George Roden was running a meth lab in this place. When David Koresh came back and took it over, he found the meth lab and called Sheriff Howell in Waco and said, just like good citizen, like I said, this guy crossed all the T's, dotted all the I's on everything he did. So he called Sheriff Howell and said, hey, this guy was running a meth lab out here. You guys should come out here and take care of it because we don't want anything to do with this shit. The sheriff came out. They took care of it. They put it all in evidence, and it was over and done with. But the FBI or the ATF got word of this, and they threw this in the affidavit as an example of something that they could use to get all this military stuff that we're going to talk about, these helicopters, these tanks, and everything else. this was just an excuse to get all this stuff.
That's what they
there
do,
was
though.
no
Yeah.
drugs happening out here.
It's a shame, but I think that's probably happens frequently. And just as an aside, that whole war on drugs, I mean, just ridiculous.
It is absolutely ridiculous.
News alert, people in the United States like to do drugs, so let's just leave it at that. War on drugs.
When did the war on drugs officially end?
Still going?
Technically, is it still
Sure,
going?
I think so.
Is it?
Yeah, war on your own citizens. They just want to smoke some weed. Maybe leave them alone. Outrageous. They want to snort some cocaine out of hookers' assholes. It's okay. Let them be. I'm not hurting anybody.
Or maybe we shouldn't use it as an excuse to play fucking army and
Also true.
go wreck a bunch of people.
There's a whole militarization of law enforcement that's going on in this country for the past 30 years. That's it's pretty scary.
I agree, and I think this is like the example of how out of control it can get.
Yeah.
The story.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
We like to drink beer. A lot of it. After a long night of drinking and talking crime and conspiracies, there's nothing that wakes us up and gets us ready to start the day better than Just Brew coffee. With a great selection of roast levels to choose from, you're guaranteed to find one that suits your style. Small batch roasted to highlight the unique features of each coffee bean, Just Brew coffee caters to both casual and hardcore coffee drinkers alike. Since 2010, Just Brew Coffee has worked tirelessly to perfect the roasting process and technique, which has resulted in seriously delicious, always flavorful, and never bitter tasting coffee. If you're already drinking JBC, raise your mug. If you're not, raise your standards. Check out their online store at youjustbrew.com and up your coffee game today. Use code NECRO15 to receive 15% off your order of 2 pounds or more. And remember, they roast, you just brew.
Although the original request for assistance was initially approved, the commander of the Special Forces Detachment questioned the request, and the ATF obtained only a training site at Fort Hood, Texas from February 25th to February 27th with safety inspections for the training lanes, and was given only medical and communications training and equipment. Now, that was regarding the ATF. This meth lab will come up later on, as we just talked about the tanks and armed helicopters, because the FBI will also use this meth lab claim to get a green light to take this thing to the next level. The ATF had planned their raid for Monday, March 1st, 1993 with the codename Showtime. The ATF later claimed that the raid was moved up to February 28th, 1993 in response to the Waco Tribune Herald's Sinful Messiah series of articles.
Sinful Messiah? That was Mike's another college nickname for Mike. He made those freshman girls do sin, but he also made them come to the Lord.
It was a condom line we sold in the bookstore, actually, too.
Is that right?
They gave me a small cut, made about $500,000 off that. Yeah. Sinful Messiah condoms. Coming to Amazon.com/Necronomipod when that store gets back up and running. Because you can free them of their sin when you're the Messiah.
Well, of course you can.
So
You can do anything when you're the Messiah.
Sin yourself on this dick, and I will save you.
Impale yourself for the Lord, if you will.
Mike 3:16 says, "I will save you from your sins that you will commit on this dick." And that's the bottom line.
Can I get a hell yeah?
Oh, hell yeah.
Well, it's interesting with this too, is because this further shows what this was about with the ATF, is that they had a quote special agent involved in publicity to come out here and deal with this stuff. So at this time, they were super fucking pissed about this Sinful Messiah stuff. They were not happy at all that this was even an issue, because this quote special agent was supposed to be handling the publicity. And basically what this was that they had brought in this woman to take some quick pictures of them raiding Mount Carmel and taking out these quote abused kids and these guns, and this would be like a front page thing for the ATF, like, hey, look how great we are.
And forget about
thing.
us killing Vicky Weaver. Or not killing her, but setting up the scenario that got Vicky Weaver killed.
Well, and not even that. It's, hey, forget the fact that we started that mess, but we didn't even kill her. The FBI killed her. But we just want everybody off our back so we can keep getting our money in this whole bureaucratic bullshit. What you said, Mike, hashtag bureaucratic bullshit was going to be the thing for the next 4 weeks.
Did I say that last week?
You did.
Yeah.
I have no recollection of that.
There's an interesting scene in that miniseries on Waco where it flashes back to Ruby Ridge because that same FBI HRT team leader's there, and he tells his guys, make sure the barricades say ATF so that people don't think the FBI was the ones that fucked this all up.
Because the ATF was in big trouble of losing all their funding.
Yeah.
They didn't know if they were going to get shut down over this shit. The shit always rolls downhill.
Let's be
it's not
honest.
going to be the FBI. It's not going to be the Justice Department. It's going to go down and down and down.
Do we need an ATF in this country? I mean, where the fuck did that even come from? ATF.
I don't know the history of the ATF, actually.
Nonsense.
Beginning in February, on February 1st, ATF agents had 3 meetings with the Tribune Herald staff regarding a delay in publication of The Sinful Messiah. The paper was first told by the ATF that the raid would take place on February 22nd, which they changed to March 1st, and then ultimately to an indefinite date. ATF agents felt the newspaper had held off on publication at the request of the ATF for at least 3 weeks. In a February 24th meeting between Tribune Herald staff and ATF agent Philip Kojenki and 2 other agents, the ATF could not give the newspaper staff a clear idea of what action was planned or when. The Tribune Herald informed ATF that they were publishing the series, which included an editorial calling for local authorities to act. Personnel of the Tribune Herald found out about the imminent raid after the first installment of The Sinful Messiah had already appeared on February 27th.
Yeah, they're not going to scoop us, motherfuckers. We're going to print the story.
Yeah, and here's a quote from Sinful Messiah.
If you are a Branch Davidian, Christ lives on a threadbare piece of land 10 miles east of here called Mount Carmel. He has dimples, claims a 9th grade education, married his legal wife when she was 14, enjoys a beer now and then, plays a mean guitar, reportedly packs a 9mm Glock, and keeps an arsenal of military assault rifles, and willingly admits that he is a sinner without equal.
You know who else played a mean guitar? Ziggy
that?
Stardust.
Also true.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. That's an accurate way to describe David Koresh, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much.
He did his band shit at bars and stuff to make some money and try to prey off people at the bars. He was a good singer for a cover band. Plays guitar. And we'll get into that guitar playing in a little bit, where he tries to combat the straight up like audio torture techniques. The ATF attempted to execute their search warrant on Sunday morning, February 28th, 1993. The local sheriff and audio tapes broadcast after the incident said he was not aware of the raid. Despite being informed by Robert Rodriguez that the Branch Davidians knew the raid was coming, the ATF commander ordered that it go ahead, even though their plan depended on reaching the compound without the Branch Davidians being armed and prepared. Now, if we remember, just from a little bit ago, Robert Rodriguez was the undercover ATF agent that went in there and spent a lot of time with the Branch Davidians. And he went in there. And yeah, but he went in there. He knew, it's depicted very well in the show, and it's very accurate to how it played out in real life. He spent a lot of time there, and he was not convinced that anything worth the ATF's time was happening in Mount Carmel. He knew, he was told. I mean, David Koresh called him out on that day and said, I know who you are. Stop it. Mm-hmm. Go back and tell your people to stop pushing forward with this. And the ATF commander didn't listen to him and went ahead anyways.
They already had their mind made up.
Yep. And this just kind of goes, this little tidbit just kind of furthers the militarization of law enforcement that's happening in this whole story. While not standard procedure, the ATF agents had their blood type written on their arms or their neck after leaving the staging area before the raid because it was recommended by military to facilitate speedy blood transfusions in case of injury.
I've never heard of this before.
That's the mindset
wild.
that they were in
wild.
going
Combat.
into this.
They're going to war.
Combat, yeah.
For nothing, for literally nothing, to go and arrest this guy for some
A couple
some
alleged
guns. Right.
that might not even exist in this
Any
country where
advan-
there's hundreds and hundreds of millions of guns.
Well, that's just Texas.
And I mean, keep in mind in the timeline too. This is happening while Randy Weaver's trial is happening. Any advantage of surprise was lost when KWTX TV reporter who had been tipped off about the raid asked for directions from a U.S. Postal Service mail carrier who was coincidentally David Koresh's brother-in-law.
Oops.
Well, in all
Koresh
fairness,
then
when you
told-
have 37 wives,
True.
everybody in the city is your brother-in-law.
And this was what I was saying earlier, that when this Postal Service guy that was Koresh's brother-in-law came back, he came back at the exact time that Robert Rodriguez was there trying to talk to David Koresh to see what they knew about what was happening. And just shit kind of hit the fan. And that's when Koresh told ATF agent Robert Rodriguez, I know who you are. I know what you guys are going to do. Stop. Go tell your people to stop this because we didn't do anything wrong. And according to Robert Rodriguez, he at the time believed that he had fully infiltrated the Branch Davidians and was shocked to find out that Koresh actually knew who he was this whole time.
You're real sly, motherfucker.
It's like I'm super undercover agent.
38
They don't know
years
who
old,
I
you're
am.
studying biology at a university 57 miles away.
Robert Rodriguez made an excuse to leave the compound, and as he was leaving, again, he was told by David Koresh, like, you have the power to stop this. We didn't do anything wrong. Stop what you guys are about to do here.
And this Rodriguez guy was put in a tough spot because he was
very much
saying,
put in a tough
he
spot.
was telling everybody, look, there's nothing going on here. And now he's got the, Koresh and everyone saying, you need to stop this.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, his forces are coming in to just raise hell.
He's like,
I feel really bad for him.
yeah. Was an impossible
afterwards-
situation.
Well, and afterwards, the ATF throws him under the bus super fucking hard and say that he was. Then they say that he was compromised by David Koresh.
Yep.
Is there any evidence to support maybe he was?
I don't think he really was. I think he's just a normal human being that didn't see anything unlawfully happening.
He was also
And
played
didn't
by...
didn't have a hard on to go
Shoot
fix
stuff.
what they did before.
Yeah.
Right. Just an agent doing his job.
Yeah.
And was sent out to do something, and he gave his thoughts and was,
Look, I'm not
politically assassinated for it.
Yeah, and I'm not shitting on all law enforcement here, but a lot of these guys clearly had a hard on to go fix what they did to Randy Weaver and his family.
Well, I think that's part of
And
it,
they
I
were-
think it gets turned up even a notch here in a little bit when we're going to talk about what happens here, and there's a shootout, and then like we talked about last week, when federal agents go down, then it becomes personal to everybody, and shit gets escalated tenfold. So yeah, you have the wanting to fix the mistakes of Ruby Ridge, and then you have now these motherfuckers shot some agents, so we're out for blood.
According to the ATF, the Branch Davidians were arming up and they were ready to go. But when asked later about what the Branch Davidians were doing when Roger Rodriguez left the house, he said they were, quote, praying, that they were not arming up. They didn't want anything to do with this. Branch Davidian survivors have written that Koresh ordered a select few male followers to begin arming and taking up defensive positions, while women and children were told to take cover in their rooms. Koresh told them that he would speak to the agents, and what happened next would depend on how the agents decided to act.
Okay, but that's just not how it works in this country. Like you can't.
Yeah,
you can't
that's
take
aggressive.
that position.
Yeah, that's aggressive.
Like if cops come into my house, even if I feel I'm wrong, I can't. Whether I'm going to shoot them or not can't depend on their intentions.
You can't have me hanging out your window saying,
No, it
back
doesn't-
to stand down.
You let them arrest you and you deal with it in court. You can't do that. It doesn't work that way.
That's David's first mistake here.
Well, that's his first mistake we've talked about tonight.
He should have resurrected that girl in the casket. Am I right?
Can you imagine if he would have resurrected all the corpses on their property and then those zombies went after the ATF? We have a whole other story.
See? It's a
Now we have
different
a whole-
story then. That's a valid point, though. You can't just if cops show up at my house and I don't agree with why they're here, it doesn't depend on
You can't
how
send-
they're acting to me, how it's going to
can't
go.
send me up to your roof and start like posting up on them saying back down, officers.
Yeah, like if they're going to arrest you, they arrest you and you deal with it in court with your attorney later. Of course, this is going to escalate it if you take that defensive position immediately.
Right. And especially because maybe even some of these agents don't necessarily know, even the ones that aren't out for blood or to regain their reputation, they're out just to do their job. If they see guns, they're immediately going to be on the defensive, and they're going to, they're going to do as they're trained to do, as they should.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a bit of an arrogance by Koresh. This is more of that arrogance by
It
him,
is.
thinking, you guys post up and I'll handle this, because we're almost like we're equals to the ATF, and I'll go talk to them, and you'll back down and they'll back down, and we'll all be okay.
Yeah. You're a kook out in the desert.
Yeah.
The ATF arrived at 9:45 a.m. in a convoy of civilian vehicles containing uniformed personnel in SWAT-style tactical gear. ATF agents stated that they heard shots coming from within the compound, while the Branch Davidian survivors claimed that the first shots came from ATF agents outside. A suggested reason may have been an accidental discharge of a weapon, possibly by an ATF agent, causing the ATF to respond from automatic weapons. Now, that is based off of the news channel, because they had the news there. The ATF,
They asked them to.
yeah, the ATF coordinated this to have the news there ready to film this whole thing, because they're
Because they want to be the heroes.
Yeah. And in the news tape, like, people have studied it. There's, I don't know anything about guns, full disclosure again, but in the video, there's lots of ATF agents, I guess, holding their guns like jackasses, where they have their finger on the trigger when they shouldn't. That should be extended until it's ready to go time.
Yep.
So there's thought that it was an accidental discharge from somebody holding it wrong and being all hyped up. Other reports claim that the first shots were actually fired by the ATF, quote, dog team that were sent in to kill the Branch Davidians dogs in the kennel. Just immediately, like right off the bat, they were ordered to you go up to that kennel and kill all those dogs so they can't be set loose.
Yeah.
Either way, it's pretty unanimous on any investigation into this that the ATF fired the first shot on this compound.
Like I don't
And it
get the logic
resulted-
behind some of this. Where if they're stating they heard shots coming from within the compound, so that causes you to then openly shoot into the building where there's a bunch of kids. Like, what's the reasoning there?
I don't think that there were any shots. I mean, my opinion, I don't think there were any shots happening inside that building. I think they were all ordered to just go in there and kill those dogs, and either the guys killing the dogs or someone holding their gun like an idiot and it misfired caused them to just go full like D-Day style on Mount Carmel.
And this is,
start
I think, the
firing
first
M16s.
This is the first big unknown of the story as to who to blame, for the situation escalating.
It's completely
You don't know for
unnecessary,
sure where the gunfire came from, but either way, it started and then it just blew up into a full-blown shootout.
Like, this guy's
And
Koresh is playing, nights out at the local bar, right? They could have picked him up at any time. He's not hiding.
But it didn't help the fact that he had people posted up with guns, when these
True.
people are rolling up. So then you don't know. Maybe one of his people gets trigger happy, sees his dog get shot, and then just starts opening fire on an agent.
That's true.
And then now we're in a full-blown shootout. We don't know who fired that first shot, and that's the first point of contention in this 51-day nonstop escalation.
And that's the thing that Robert Rodriguez, he says that I've been in there, I didn't see anything, but if you guys really want to go arrest him, he's jogging every day.
Yeah,
he doesn't just hide there. Go grab him at the bar, go grab him while he's running, and then they come back on him from the publicist standpoint, and they're like, yeah, so how many times do you see the ATF arresting a guy that's out jogging?
Yeah, right. It's
This is all for
optics
show.
nonsense. Yep.
Yeah.
And we can debate on like which ATF person fired the first shot, but it's pretty much unanimous as far as any experts are concerned in that they did fire the first shot. 3 helicopters of the Army National Guard were used as aerial distraction, and all took incoming fire. During the first shots, Koresh was wounded. shot in the hand and in the stomach. Within a minute of the raid, Branch Davidian Wayne Martin called emergency services pleading for them to stop.
Here's that pretty intense 911 call. And I think, Ian, you said this was about a 30-minute call that we shortened down to about 3 minutes?
Yeah, so yeah, full disclosure, it's a 30-minute phone call that I cut into 3 minutes. I cut it down to the parts where Wayne Martin's actually talking, because for the majority of the remaining 30 minutes of this call is just nothing but automatic gunfire and the sheriff asking if it's Wayne talking or who's talking or what's going on, and it's just a bunch of gunfire in the background.
Which is crazy to begin with. I mean, trying to imagine a 30-minute 911 call during a gunfight. I mean, that's a long time.
Yeah, and this lasted for a total of 2 hours.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is a long time.
With a bunch of women and children inside.
Yeah. All right, there's a call.
911, what's your emergency? 911, what's your emergency?
There are 75 men around our building.
Okay, just a moment.
This Lynch. Hello? Hello?
There's 75 men circling.
Hello? 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 Yeah, this is Lieutenant Lynch. May I help you?
Yeah, there are 75 men around our building, and they're shooting at us in Mount Carmel.
Mount Carmel?
Yeah, tell them there are children and women in here and to call it off.
All right. Hello? I hear gunfire. Oh, shit. Hello? Who is this? Hello?
Call it off.
Who is this? Hello? Hello? God almighty. Hello? Is this Wayne? Hello, this is Lance Sheriff's Office.
Tell them to call,
Wayne?
tell them to call it off.
Who is this, Wayne?
Tell them to pull back.
What?
Tell them to pull back.
Who is this, Wayne?
It doesn't matter.
Listen. Let's get this thing resolved. Wayne.
We got women and children in danger.
Okay, Wayne. Are there weapons in there with you, Wayne? Wayne.
I'm under fire.
Okay, Wayne. Do you have weapons in there? Wayne, do you have weapons in there? Talk to me, Wayne, before this thing gets completely out of hand.
We have ceasefire.
Okay. You cease fire? Is that what you said, Wayne?
We're under fire.
Okay. I'm fixing to get in touch with them, Wayne. We need you to lay your weapons down. Stand by while I make contact with the forces, okay?
I have a right to defend myself. They started firing first.
Okay, well, let's resolve it. Let's resolve this, Wayne, before someone gets hurt. Okay? I'm trying to make contact with the forces outside. Don't let this line close, okay?
Firing up there.
Pardon me?
They're still attacking.
All right.
Another chopper with more people and more guns going on. Here they come.
All right. Wayne, tell...
More firing. That's not us. That's them.
Okay, all right.
We'll talk when they stop firing.
All right. I got to get somebody. They want a ceasefire. Stand by. Who's firing now?
They are.
All right, stand by. I'm trying to reach them. Don't return fire, okay?
That's crazy. First of all, the sheriff seemed a little befuddled at the beginning of that call.
Well, I think he was probably put in a situation that he had no fucking clue was over his head.
Man.
It's a small area, so I feel like he was probably like, what the fuck's
Yeah,
going on here?
What? Is this Wayne?
That was pretty terrifying to listen to.
You imagine being in there? Fuck no. It's nuts.
And you got women and children who you're trying to protect.
Well, and here's the thing about the sheriff, like Sheriff Hartwell and stuff. Like, he's come out afterwards and multiple times and was like, the Branch Davidians were good people. They didn't bother us. They minded their own business, and they weren't an issue for anybody here. So this was like a complete surprise to everybody. So like when these this small town in Texas is getting these phone calls of the ATF just unloading fucking M16s on this place. It's like, wait, what the fuck is even happening right now?
Well, and they did not consult with the sheriff at all before they did this raid.
No. Mm-mm. I know on that call you can hear Steve Snyder, which we're going to get into him a lot. He's kind of David's right-hand man. We'll get into him.
Well, he's a cuck who let Dave bang his wife. And
Well, they're all cucks, Dave. They're all cucks. I've proven that.
everyone's a cuck besides Mike.
Well,
I think that's the thing about this situation that makes me feel like watching a documentary, watching the show on Netflix, reading about it, doing anything is it personally makes me feel very panicky trying to put myself in that situation, because it's like, what do you do at that point in time? Because your government, your law enforcement, those are the people that you're supposed to call when something really, really bad is happening. At that point, who do you call?
right.
When your government or your law enforcement that's supposed to protect you are the ones that are shooting at you first,
Yeah.
and shooting at you in that capacity? Like, what are you supposed to do in that situation?
And if you're in that situation and then you're on the phone with your local sheriff, what the fuck is he supposed to do at this point?
Nothing.
Like, he might be your own only saving grace, but what is he going to do when you have, hellfire being rained upon you by the United States
He's
government?
not going to do anything.
But it's also on David Koresh, because David Koresh told people to get in armed positions.
Oh,
There
David
was no-
Koresh
there-
is 100% not innocent here. With the way he handled a lot of things. Maybe some of everyone else in the building is, but David Koresh is not.
Well, he should have walked outside and laid on the ground and put his hands and interlocked his fingers behind his head. None of this would have happened.
But Dave, he was going to convince them. While he had his guys manning up, taking aim.
The first ATF casualty was an agent who had made it to the west side of the building before he was wounded. Agents quickly took cover and fired at the buildings while the helicopters began their diversion and swept in low over the complex 350 feet away from the building. That's fucking super low for a helicopter.
A little bit, yeah.
The Branch Davidians fired on the helicopters and hit them without injuring the crew, and the helicopters immediately stopped the mission and landed.
Yeah, fuck this. We're out.
On the east side of the compound, agents brought out 2 ladders and set them up against the side of the building. Agents then climbed onto the roof with the objective of securing it to reach Koresh's room and the gun storage room. On the west slope of the building, 3 agents reached Koresh's window and were crouching beside it when they came under fire. One agent was killed.
Ian, did they have like a blueprint or outline of the house based... One, did they have a blueprint or an outline, and was it from Rodriguez when he was in the compound? Like, how did they know where everything was based on their attack?
So they tried. They had one outline that was from a former member that was kicked out of the Branch Davidians. So this guy's claims are very suspect because he was really salty about being kicked out. And then the other one is
Save that guy's
Rodriguez,
life.
which Rodriguez said, I didn't find anything.
And he was up there looking around, too.
So he
Right,
could
and he
he
said,
could tell
I didn't
them
find it.
He could tell them where their rooms were and like where Koresh's room was and where like the women stayed and the men stayed, but that was about it.
Right. He was like, I didn't see a gun room.
Right.
I just didn't see it. So I don't think that...
But meanwhile, they were trying to secure to get into Koresh's room and the quote gun storage room, and they had no fucking idea, one, if that existed, and 2, where it was.
I mean, they had a solid idea that it existed. I think it was clear to everybody that it existed somewhere in that compound, but nobody knew where it was.
Okay.
When they were crouching outside Koresh's window, the ATF agents came under fire. One agent was killed, another was wounded. A third agent scrambled over the peak of the roof and joined other agents attempting to enter the arms room, which they claimed was the arms room. The window was smashed, a flashbang stun grenade was thrown in, and 3 agents entered the room. When another tried to follow them, a hail of bullets penetrated the wall and wounded him, but he was able to reach a ladder and slide to safety. I mean, you can see that all in the video. Then there's the videos out there of all this shit going down. It's pretty fucking intense. An agent fired with his shotgun at the Branch Davidians until he was hit in the head by a return fire and killed. Inside the gun room, the agents killed a Branch Davidian and discovered a cache of weapons, but then came under heavy fire. 2 were wounded. As they escaped, the third agent laid down, covering fire, killing a Branch Davidian. As he made his escape, he hit his head on a wooden support beam and fell off the roof, but survived.
God damn, pal, watch out for those beams.
Well, so was it an actual gun room? Did they find a bunch of guns? What is a cache of weapons? Was it like, 3 AR-15s, or was it a closet full of AK-47s? What was it?
Yeah, I don't think it was the mother load of guns that the Branch Davidians had, because the Branch Davidians 100% had a fuck ton of weapons that would definitely count as a stockpile of weapons,
but not necessarily illegal.
That's where you get into it. It's like, what is illegal with guns?
Yeah.
Like, how many AK-47s are you allowed to have before it's considered a stockpile? I don't know. In my mind, you should maybe just have, like, maybe if you want to collect guns, maybe like just one of each of them.
Maybe, but it's America. Land of the free and the home of the guns.
Rules.
Let's not go down any roads. We're going to lose some listeners here.
People love guns, man.
They love guns. Some people love
I'm not
lasagna and French
I just
fries,
don't know.
and that's just how it is. Oh, I'm judging, baby.
I just don't know the roles of
sure.
What is the difference between a stockpile and a collection? I don't know.
It's a fine line.
Well, I think it depends who you're asking, and probably too.
I think that's probably.
I think the ATF could probably just look at any of us and be like, "You have a stockpile of guns."
Yeah.
Like, motherfucker, I don't have any guns. Oh, yes, you do. And then they're,
you know what I'm going to say about
the my front window.
I think the federal government, if they wanted to fuck with anybody, they could find something illegal that you did, and they could make your life a living hell.
That's absolutely right.
Well, not Dave, though. He's a saint.
Well, I go to church every Sunday, and I pay my taxes. If that's your definition of a saint, then yes, I'm a saint.
Exactly.
If the federal government wanted to make your life a living hell, they 100% could. No matter who you are in this country.
I don't disagree with that.
Of course.
This is not an anti-federal government episode, for the record.
I think it is.
We're just telling the story as we know it to be told, and as the facts present themselves.
We're breaking my golden rule on this show.
Which is?
No politics.
Yeah, that golden rule is gone.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
Week.
No, I disagree. I think we still keep ourselves to a pretty good standard of no politics. We touch on subjects where we have to give our opinions and our thoughts, and we do so respectfully, and then we move on. I don't think we've necessarily broken any lines.
Okay, if you say so.
I'm going to say so.
I crossed the line into a little bit of gun control talk last week, but I'm okay with that.
But I don't know if you went extreme with anything. I don't know. I don't think you did, Dave.
Dozens of ATF agents took cover, many behind Branch Davidian vehicles, and exchanged fire with the Branch Davidians. The number of ATF wounded increased, and an agent was killed by gunfire from the compound as agents were firing at Branch Davidians perched on top of a water tower. The exchange of fire continued, but 45 minutes into the raid, the gunfire began to slow down as agents began to run low on ammunition. The shooting continued for a total of 2 hours.
That's a long time, man.
Sheriff Lieutenant Lynch of the McClellan County Sheriff's Department contacted the ATF and negotiated a ceasefire. Sheriff Howell, on the other hand, states that ATF agents withdrew only after they were out of ammunition. ATF agent Chuck Huschmeyer wrote, quote, "About 45 minutes into the shootout, the volume of gunfire finally started to slacken. We were running out of ammunition. The Davidians, however, had plenty."
Well, they planned ahead.
And this is an argument that I think it's not great to brag about, I guess would be the first thing that popped into my head. But it could be a thing, a point towards the Branch Davidians in this scenario, is that the amount of weapons that they had in that compound and what they could have done from experts, things that I've read and different stuff, that could have been like a D-Day if they wanted it to be. That they could have killed every single one of those ATF agents out there.
Really?
And they could have just mowed them down 100% and just killed every single one of them. But they didn't.
With what?
That's
what additional? I mean, that leads me to believe that 50 caliber story might have been true.
If they armed every single person in that building, in that compound, with a gun, because they did. They 100% had a stockpile of weapons. That's not really debated on. I mean, they had a lot of weapons, and I don't want to say that that's like bragging or saying that they did right or
that it showed restraint.
I don't know what it shows, but that's what I've read out there, that they could have killed every single person out there, and they decided not to. Take that for what it is, I guess. In all, 4 ATF agents, Steve Willis, Robert Williams, Todd McKeon, and Conway Charles LeBleu, had been killed during the firefight. Another 16 had been injured. After the ceasefire, the Branch Davidians allowed the ATF to take their dead and wounded to be evacuated and held fire during the ATF retreat. This was a straight-up defeat. The ATF rolled out there to do what they thought was going to be a quick 20-minute raid, and they ended up in a firefight that ended up in their guys getting killed, and they walked away in just straight-up retreat.
Even though they were warned by Rodriguez that the Branch Davidians were expecting them.
They know you're coming. Don't do this. And he said they were praying when he left.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like they were arming for an assault. But when they started shooting into the compound, maybe that's when they, started arming themselves.
But didn't we say that? We had already said that Koresh ordered the women to go hide, and he set guys up, armed up, to man some posts.
I guess it's a timing issue, is it not?
But it's still the federal government coming out. It's law enforcement coming towards you. Like you said earlier. We had this argument.
Sure.
That's not necessarily probably the best way to go about this.
No, it's definitely not the right way, because you're not going to win.
When you learn about David Koresh, it's hard to side with him and his people on any of this. Because he's a scumbag. He's a cult leader. That's what he is.
He's banging kids.
Right. And he's
Under
manipulating
Texas law.
everybody.
But yeah, he's banging kids.
Under Texas law.
But he's manipulating people.
You can say that, but like if Ohio law said you could bang 7-year-olds, would you bang 7-year-olds? Of course.
No, I'm not saying he's not a scumbag.
I know what you're saying, but I'm just saying,
It's just like the black and white thing of what the ATF did.
Yeah, sure.
And that's absolutely right.
It's a complicated
the ATF
story.
Was looking for
sure.
a win, and they wanted to go make this big hero story. And it fucking blew up in their faces, and it becomes this. And then it gets even worse from here.
The 5 Branch Davidians killed in the raid were Winston Blake, Peter Gent, Peter Hipsman, Perry Jones, and Jadine Wendell. 2 were killed at the hands of the Branch Davidians after being wounded, and basically saying they wanted to be put out of their misery. Their bodies were eventually buried on the grounds. Nearly 6 hours after the 11:30 a.m. ceasefire, Branch Davidian member Michael Schroeder was shot dead by ATF agents who alleged he fired a pistol at agents as he attempted to re-enter the compound to be with his wife and child. Now, this is another part of the story that's like super, super gray, because it just depends on who's telling the story here.
He was trying to sneak back in, be with his family.
Well, wait, how was he outside the compound and even got close to getting back in?
So the thing was with him is that he was out doing the whole mag bag gun show shit, selling some guns, and then he came back and wanted to be with, he was just driving back to the compound and was turned away. And supposedly, if you go off the ATF, he was sneaking back in after he was told that the road was closed, and he fired a shot at them, and they killed him. If you go off the Branch Davidian story of it, he was sneaking back in, they saw him, and they just opened fire on him and just killed him.
It's just another one of those parts of who escalated the situation. From like the initial who fired first to this to what we'll get into next part with, some fire starting.
Yeah, and next week we're going to get into, after this, the FBI has to get back involved with it, just like they did with Ruby Ridge.
Well, now you got federal agents dead.
That's what happened, sure.
You've got multiple guys dead. You've got a compound of people that are locked down, thinking that their Messiah has instructed them to be in that place. And man, next week we're gonna see. how ugly all this can get.
That's to say the least.
Yeah.
So yeah, next week we'll get into the FBI is involved.
We just built like blue balls, and everybody who's listening to this episode, I feel
This
like.
is a crazy ass story, man.
Has the cult ever been the victim in our stories? And are we building to a story where the cult is the victim?
Not necessarily. It's all perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, it's how you
throwing out
decide
questions,
to
people.
view it.
You
But
could
I
have-
think
they could have left the house at any time.
I think a good quote from all this, and I'm just gonna skip way ahead to next week.
Goddamn, pal. Spoilers.
Quote: History will record, I believe, that these assaults on Mount Carmel Church Center remain the greatest domestic law enforcement tragedy in the history of the United States. And I think that's very accurate. And
That's
I
a
think
bold
that-
statement. That's a good
I think-
cliffhanger, man.
I think we're going to save... Yeah, that's goddamn, Pally. Whew. I'll save my thoughts for the end. Spoiler alert, I think Santa Bill did it. So
God damn.
we'll talk about that next week. John Benet Ramsey available in the archives.
It couldn't be an archive or an episode without an archive reference.
There it is. So that's where we draw the line here. Part 1. Ian, you got anything else for this first part? Don't give us any more for part 2. Make people come
No.
back.
Other than I thought we would get it done in in one part, and that just
Yeah, I don't think so.
Well,
too much of a story to tell here.
Ian doesn't make mistakes often, but this one he did.
Yeah.
Was there any... what other shows have we done? Was there another... There was one more where we got halfway through and we are like, fuck this is 2 parts. I can't remember what it was.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
It's like one of those things. I don't know. What
They're
is it?
pro-
You like you
What-
overcompensate, or you think you're whatever. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll get this done in one part. And
Well,
this
and
will
you
be-
did. I mean, you gave us the notes for it. It's just a matter of the conversation and how it goes.
Well, this one it wasn't hard for me to just go ahead and write like 18, 19 pages on Waco. I was super interested in this.
So for
Absolutely
those
fascinating
spoiler alerts for
subject.
those of you listening, Dave and I had to read 19 pages on Waco. We had fucking homework from Ian. Taking notes over here. Dave, you got anything else you want to add to this or to gun control or to politics in general?
No,
or-
sir. I've had my say. You know, I think you guys know where I stand.
Dave, what are your thoughts on religion? You've never told us about that.
Dave's new podcast, The Religion and Gun Control Hour.
All right. It's been a big month for Patreon. Patreon. Oh, the old Patreon.
What?
The old Patreon. Well, subscriber to the $10... I'm fucking drunk. If you're a subscriber to the $10 tier level of Patreon, you heard this episode 2 days earlier than everyone else and ad-free. If you are not yet a subscriber of the $10 level of Patreon, what are you waiting for? Patreon.com/Necronomipod. One correction from last week. A name that I just probably fucking butchered. Chris Van Benthuizen. Hope I said that right. Apologies to you. I think I messed up your name last time. So, Chris Van Benthuizen, thank you very much. Let me pull up the other 177,000 names that have subscribed this past week. Dave just sent me a new one.
What was that guy's name? Bend Your Thighs In?
He'll bend your thighs in.
Oh.
Uziel Garcia, thank you very much. And then also thank you much to Erica Bernstein, Lily, Gabby Vasquez, John K., Autumn Pedroli, Megan Morris, Rob, Tim Pigeon, Courtney, Sunday Austin, Rylan Oliver, Claudia Schneider, Tiffany Canfield, Jesse Dakota, Sarah, Robbie Swedish, Amy Gill, Gabriel, Desiree Martinez, Brittany Vidal, Jimmy, B. Leonard, H.G. Gillum, Ricky, Connie McCall, Keely Gaither, Austin Gentry, Becca Marie, Stephanie Self, Joshua Monroe, Kay Whitaker, Valerie Walker, Maris, and Taylor Barlow. Thank you guys very much for signing up for Patreon. Again, as of May, we have the new $10 tier for early release on all of our Sunday episodes. They are also ad-free. We have a once-a-month video Necronomipod happy hour where you get to chat with at least some of us. We might not all be there every month, but you will get to at least chat with some of us through a video happy hour. I'll have some drinks with you guys. You also get Necronomipod sticker, and you will get Necronomipod wallpapers available for your smartphone devices. That's at the $10 tier. We also have the $5 tier available and the $1 tier available. Thank you guys so much. Patreon.com/Necronomipod. Ian, what do you got?
For iTunes, I have one for Jeliet0120 and Spielberg8. Thank you guys for the awesome reviews.
Dave, what do you got? Shout outs.
Instagram, Carly Miller, Shannon Martinez. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yes, love it. All right. We are on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, I guess YouTube if you want to read that content. Also, CastBox. Thank you very much. We appreciate all that. We got a lot of negative comments on there also, so, fuck you guys.
YouTube's about to have some hot takes on this episode.
Yeah, probably. But they always do on the, whatever.
Fuck them.
Anyways, thank you very much. We'll see you guys next week.
All right, you guys ready for a quote on beer?
Cheers.